This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're grinding out bicep curls or muscling the couch across the living room, crushing morning miles, or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, Smoothie King has fuel to help you maximize your workouts, own your recovery, and elevate your game. Give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs with a lineup of delicious smoothies made to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.
The story about the older gentleman who groomed me at 13, 14, I have told that story to therapists in the past and many a times, but writing it, editing it, and now this final edit, I had a new old memory from that final experience with this gentleman. It's blowing my mind. It was parts of the story that, there's so much shame because I also blamed myself because I made the choice to go meet him.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Rennebaum, a suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. Welcome to another week. This week it's part 2 of Sean Hemeon's story. If you didn't listen to the first part, I recommend you do. But you don't have to. This week concludes Sean's story of growing up Mormon and gay and finding addiction and being a drug dealer and being an informant for the feds and ultimately finding recovery. And he's also got a book coming out. It may be out now. As I'm recording this, there's no release date yet, but make sure to check the show notes to see if it is out. But the book is called The Good Little Drug Lord. If you're a fan of this episode or any of the episodes, please remember to rate and review the podcast. And if you have been enjoying it for quite a while, you can please check out my website, www.bunnyhugspodcast.com. Up on the top there's a menu. You can click Buy Me a Coffee. It's basically giving me a tip. I really don't make much money at this at all. I have a couple other part-time jobs. I'm really hoping to make this my main gig. I mean, it is. It's just not my main money gig. But anyway, you can donate me a coffee or two, $5, $10, whatever. You can even do it so that it comes out monthly. You don't even have to think about it. If you do that, that'd be so incredible, and I would appreciate it so very much. Thank you to everyone who has done that and who's signed up for the monthly. And thank you for tuning in this week. Just a reminder, we ended last week, part 1, with someone Sean was hanging out with who died of a drug overdose, and he ended up getting a phone call from that person's mom. So without further ado, I give you part 2 of Sean Hemeon.
But that terrified me so much that I was like, I'm not traveling anymore. This is great, and I'm like doing even more drugs. So one of my runners, he was a hairstylist and he would do in-home hairstyling calls. This is what he still did, but he was also a major tweaker. and his business really skyrocketed when he would run drugs. So he would go to people's homes, do haircuts and deal drugs for me. One of his clients was this girl whose boyfriend was trying to get in the business. The only hiccup was he was supposedly part of the Russian mafia. So it was like, when he first told me this, I was like, you're crazy. Goodbye. Get out of here with that. But now, desperate with the agents breathing down my neck, I'm not traveling anymore. I don't have any more supply. Let's go for it. What else? You know what? He's mafia. Maybe like I will definitely get my case dismissed. Maybe this is how I do this. I don't, who knows what the fuck I'm thinking? Like, I mean, at the end of it, at the bottom of it, it's like what I probably really am thinking is I'm running out of drugs and I need more. And, as it turns out, this guy had the best meth that I had ever had in my life, and the best meth the city had ever seen. And he just needed a connection to like really push it out. And he had pounds of it. I mean, I could push ounces, which is break that down to like eighths. Like I could push it, I could push that out. And he was so attractive.
They always are.
When it got really bad and I started owing him a lot of money, like he was pinning me to the wall, putting the gun in my face. And all I'm thinking is like, kiss me, please kiss me. So messed up. I was definitely clearly disassociating. Like it was just like, it's like how much like, hey, look, you know what? In the gay scene, there was certainly enough straight boys that like you give them enough meth and they turn gay. They don't care. They just want more meth. So it's like, how much do I need to give him? Anyway, but he wanted me to take him serious. And he definitely on the first time meeting him, put the gun in my face, did the whole thing. And he's like, I may or may not be affiliated with people that, so like he led me to believe that he was part of the Russian mafia, which is relevant for the story at that time. In retrospect today, it's like, was he? I don't know. But it definitely at the time, I thought his people were following me. I mean, I took him. The gun was enough to make me take him serious. But after the phone call from the mother and working with him and the best meth I ever had, like I just, and the looming court date, I was off the deep end. I started using more of the product than selling. And I would just be in these hazes of using, but I didn't have a problem yet because I wasn't shooting up, which was stupid. I was smoking like $450 a day of the stuff, or whatever the equivalent of that is. But like, and I started to like the guy because he started, when I would meet up with him and stuff. But I also knew like this was a get. This was going to be the get that the agents would really want. But when it came time for my sentencing, he was already, so I owed him so much money. He was definitely threatening my life at that point. So I was like, I need to get away from that. I was really recognizing that I can't stop. Like I thought I was invincible. I don't think I can stop. I thought I had a little bit of control still, but I was like, I can't stop. But mostly it was this identity crisis of like, okay, I know I'm doing like horrible choices for myself, but I'm the only one being damaged. But does this mean I'm a bad person? I should go to prison for what happened to the young man, especially the mother. So I gave up. I was just like, the fear of going to prison was always so high, but the fear of all this other stuff put me like 1% higher. That's it. So when I showed up for my sentencing, I lied to my parents. I said it got moved. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want them to see me getting carried away in handcuffs. I just was like, I'll call them from prison. Again, with the court-appointed lawyer, this beautiful human being, Dennis Braddock, we sit up there and this, pipsqueak of a federal prosecutor, probably 2 years older than me, just so young, just stands up and he's like, Your Honor, we're the United States is asking for this case to be dismissed. And even the judge was confused. He was like, wait, what just happened? And he's like, we're asking for it to be dismissed. He didn't know what to do. So he hits the gavel. He's like, case dismissed. And then I'm dumbstruck. My lawyer grabs me, pulls me to a side room. And again, this guy is court appointed. He's done hundreds, thousands of these. And he is beside himself, like pacing, like, what did you do? I'm like, bro. One of the, I don't know. I had one of the dealers was a former retired federal judge, by the way. One of the dealers out there, this crotchety old man who was a total sleazy tweaker. His townhouse got raided many times. Like he was a former federal judge. And then there was other people that bullshit. People were saying like, I know a guy who knows a guy, but I definitely didn't believe any of that. Like, ties with the, just bullshit tweaker talk. So I didn't do anything. I didn't think I did anything and I didn't turn in. And the agents weren't at my sentencing because they were done with me and I was panicked. And right before I was like, literally as I'm walking up to get the sentencing, I'm like, can you tell the agents to come back? I'll tell them everything. Like I was really second guessing everything I was doing. Because I was just realizing I was about to lose my life. This judge did not look like he liked me. So Braddock just looked at me. He was just like, I don't know what to say. Like you have somebody watching over you. You have a second chance here. You better not, mess it up. And, I haven't really been speaking about my mom this whole time because I ran away from her with that second boyfriend. And then in the drug scene stuff, like she would call sometimes to check in. I'd give her 1-word answers, but I remember calling her after and just listening to her sobbing for me. That really got me. And you would think that would be the moment I get sober.
Did you ever find out why it was dropped, or is that no? Oh, I thought maybe that was going to be like the reveal at the end or something. But
so I have no in my epilogue I definitely am like, so one theory, especially how I was treated by the first judge, the VCU judge, the one. Did I tell you that story when I was first? Let me tell this story. When I was first arrested and I was brought in front of the judge, I'm brought into after the disarray, the disorienting thing. First of all, I was put in a holding cell with 50 other men. 3 of us were white. DC was the judicial system was kind of famously racist at this point. I mean, there's a large black population, still is to this day, but it was also kind of really racist. And then when I was brought into the courtroom, which is also disorienting because it's like run like an office. It isn't like how you see on TV. It's a very sort of different experience. I mean, it looks like it, but it isn't. It feels like an office, like filing cabinets, And before me is 2 young black men about my age getting eviscerated for a dime bag of cocaine. And the judge is like, you have to do better for your community. I mean, very coded, racist, like, you have to do better for your, your people, your community, all those kind of things. And he gives them a bail of like $1,000. And, you could tell by their faces that they didn't have $1,000, that kind of stuff. So I'm like, possession with intent to distribute, so much meth, so much money. Like, I'm done. And so I get up before this guy, older white guy, kind of balding. And he looks at my file, he looks up at me, looks at my file, looks up, and he's like, son, are you in school? And I'm like, I go to VCU in Richmond. And then his eyes light up and he was like, oh my God, how about those Rams? And I'm like, what? I didn't say what. I'm just in my head. I'm like, what? He's like, man, I think they might make it all the way to the NCAA. So I didn't know this, but we had a men's basketball team that was like on its way to like being a big deal, like making its way to the men's Final Four, college, whatever. And I'm just like, mm-hmm. And that's when Dennis Braddock miraculously showed up, and the judge was like, do you accept your corner appointed? And, Braddock sees what's happening here as unusual as well. So he's just kind of like, nod your head, kid. And I'm like, yep. And the guy was just like, okay, cool. All right, well, go back to school. You're banned from DC. I didn't mention that. I was banned from DC. And you're released on your own recognizance. So that's my experience with the judges. So later with my sentencing, this judge could have given 2 shits about race or anything. He just wanted to see me fry. So my kind of theory is, I think they saw I don't know. They must have been overworked and they just have to get rid of some cases. And so why don't we pick the guy who's clearly in school and clearly going to do something with his life? That's my coded way of saying he's white. So there's a potential of him adding to society. So my theory today, after especially writing it and looking at it, I'm like, and also like, I took advantage of the white privilege when I was trafficking through airports, especially with the racial profiling with the Middle East stuff. And also just, I acted like an entitled middle-class white guy, straight white guy, by the way, because, I can hide my sexuality. I have the advantage of that. I'm an invisible minority, if you will. So I leaned into that. And I also feel like I will totally own the fact that I was probably thriving on that, like the level of invincibility that I felt. It wasn't just the youth of being 22, but it was being attractive and being white and being male. And I was thriving on those consequences will never happen to me. I think I fed into all of that without knowing what it was. It was in writing the book where I could clearly see all of those things that I benefited from, if you will. And again, the dismissal of the case, I know the federal prosecutor's name and I could email him and be like, hey, 21 years later, yeah, hey, I know you were just starting out, like you were brand new and stuff, and you're much older. You're probably my age now. Like, do you remember why? Like, maybe I should actually, for the benefit of the book. That might be interesting. Hey, look, there's your new thing. I'm having a new thought. Thankfully, 6 weeks later, I got sober. And I lasted because Vadim was now threatening my friends, kind of stalking. And so I was like, okay, I can't leave my friends abandoned here. And I'm going to try to deal a little bit more and pay him back. And that was the only goal. But every time I got a new stash of drugs, I ended up using it. So like the plan was defaulting anyway. And so like I was just sort of, and by that point too, with no money, with nothing, one of my running mates, this girl, her name's Lexi in the book. She's a main point of the book because she was like the one person I could trust with everything. She was living in an abandoned apartment because it would flood out. It was some former friends lived there, but they moved out, and it was like it would flood out. It would rain. It was a basement apartment, and like you go into like the 600 square foot apartment bottom floor, and it would smell like moldy socks. You could tell where the stains were and stuff like that. And if it rained, you got to sit on the air mattress because it was getting wet. So I crashed with her, and so I was trying to deal more drugs, but I ended up using just the product and everything. And so and things were. I mean, it was getting. I was inching closer towards injecting. I wasn't doing it yet, but I was inching closer. It was harder to get high. I was acting insane. This was like real tweaker. The ones you expect from the movies, kind of just that kind of insanity. And 2 weeks before my 23rd birthday, September 26th, 2004, Lexi turns to me after she's been thinking about this for a long time. She looks at me and she's like, I don't want you to get upset with me, but I want to tell you that I want to go to rehab. And I pause and I look at her and I'm like, I genuinely think this. And I look at her and I'm like, you can do that? I swear to God. I honestly thought rehab was for train spotting the heroin addicts, like in the abandoned house, let alone I'm in an abandoned apartment. Like, yeah. I thought it was for Requiem for a Dream. It was just heroin equals rehab, kind of was the equation. But side note, when I did eventually get to rehab in October, more than half were suburban moms who couldn't stop drinking Chardonnay. Just, just side note, rehab's for anybody.
Now they're on the Real Housewives of something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? My birthday's in 2 weeks. Let's have a going away party and a birthday party. And we'll stop then. And this was the first time I really said out loud, like, I will stop. And so when it actually came to my birthday and came to the morning when I was supposed to stop, it was terrifying because I genuinely thought I was stopping, but yet my body was still picking the stuff up and still doing it. And I'm screaming at myself. I partied all night. We had people come over to party. I pushed them away because I was like, I even was like, I just ate shrooms. I ate every drug I could that night, and I could not get high. I could not get high. And then I was convinced, I was like, it's because of my tolerance, and now I need to shoot up. And so I'm going to kick everybody out. Let me smoke some more to go to CVS to get the needle, and I'll come back and we'll cross this line together. But when I was smoking it, I was realizing it was the new day. It was my birthday. That's the time I said I was going to stop. And there was the voice in my head that was like, stop, you need to stop. And it was weird to have this tell you one thing, but your body, literally my body was doing things that I wasn't telling it to do. I was not in control of my body. It was the weirdest experience. And that's when my brain broke. I fully saw and accepted that I could not stop and I had no control. And the weight of that hit my mind so hard that I literally fell backwards. And I was like out of breath. I was like, and I like came to with a new sense of clarity. Like I was a coma patient that woke up and was like from a year and a half of sleeping. And I wake up and I look around and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I couldn't believe I was a dealer. I couldn't believe where I was. I couldn't believe I was surrounded by drugs. It was the weirdest experience of my life. And I caved. Like I couldn't form thoughts. I couldn't form words. And then, I remember I didn't know what to do. I thought I really was going crazy. And I thought I was stuck using drugs because I was reaching for the pipe again. I was like, and then I was grieving. I grieved my future acting career. I grieved my parents. I grieved my past relationships. And then what I haven't mentioned is, I was groomed and molested at 13. I might've been one of the first online predators victims. When I was 4, I was abandoned at my home and walked all the way to the new home a mile away. And my parents didn't even notice I was gone. And that was devastating. And so like I was grieving all these things, and I was thinking about this poor 13-year-old who could still feel all those years. Even today, I could still feel the phantom stubble on my thigh from this man. I was thinking of them and how innocent they were. And somehow in that innocence, that compassion for them, how unfair it was, I realized I needed to do something for them. And that turned on the waterworks. That dropped the pipe out of my hands. I fell down I was up in a loft in that flooded out apartment. There was a loft space. I fall down the stairs. I crawl back to Lexi. She takes one look at me and just launches herself holding me as we like both shake and cry. And it was so innocent because we held each other there, recognizing that there was this window of clarity that opened, a crack like this big. And we both knew it. And we both knew that thing was shutting fast. And we were like, we got to do something, girl. We didn't know what to do. So we opened the yellow pages, and there was like 200 rehabilitation centers or clinics, or like we didn't know what to do. And so we just randomly called any number we could. And this beautiful voice of an angel, she was like, it was the first time I said I couldn't stop doing meth, and she totally understood. And they had beds that were opening later that afternoon or later that evening. And she was like, can you hold on? We're like, yes, we can hold on. Let's do this. And then we hang up, and immediately I want to start using. And Lexi's like, no, we got this. We can do this. And I was like, okay, let me call my ex-boyfriend, who I'm still talking to here and there. He can come take all the product away. And then she thinks she can't do it. So then she calls her parents, who, this is DC. She calls her parents, and they're in Boston. So I'm like, they're not going to do anything. They were in the car a half an hour later, zooming down to come get her, which moved me to the point where I was like, I'm losing it. Maybe I should call my parents. And this is like, I want people to read my book, and I want people to like finish it and like just want to hug their mom or hug their dad, because I picked up that phone. It was Sunday morning. My mother was probably rushing around getting ready for church, screaming at the kids to get ready, like she always, every Sunday morning. It's like I have PTSD of her screaming to get ready for church. But she gets a call from me at like 9:30, 8:30 a.m. Literally, she answers, and literally all I just said was, Mom, and she could hear it, everything, just all of it. And it was like the mama bear was activated, and she just goes, where are you? That was it. Like it's just beyond, I mean, like beyond the labels, her being Mormon, beyond me being like, beyond all of that, down on just that gut soul level. She's my mother. I'm her son. And I understand, like, there are versions of this story that she never answers, or she's like tough shit, or, so whatever, she was able to hear me that day, or I was able to reach out to her that day. I had been avoiding her and stuff. And so they were on their way, my mom and my dad, to come get me. In this now telling the truth, I was confronted by Vadim, who I completely blanked out on. And then suddenly I'm, the ex-dealer boyfriend, whose name's Bo in the book, he must have told other people. So right now there's a bunch of other tweakers showing up and panicking because Sean's leaving. We're not going to have drugs, Vadim. And then my parents show up in the middle of this, and I'm like, don't even come in. Like, I'm just trying to throw, stuff in there, not having them deal with the tweaker. It's just so funny to see my parents standing there and these like tweakers, like coming out of the, like, just my parents surrounding them. And then suddenly Vadim, and who found out where I was, and seething, murderous. And I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, though, this honesty thing that I've been writing the last 2 hours or hour, however long it was feeling good. It was like a new feeling. I didn't know what to say to him. So I just said, hey, man, I'm going to go to rehab, and I'll get a job when I come out. Can I pay you back on a payment plan? I didn't know what else to say. I didn't know what else to fucking, and again, we had a bit of a rapport. I wouldn't call him a friend, but we had a bit of a rapport. I was still very attracted to him, but like, I learned about, things about him. Like, we joked, like there's a bit of a rapport, but still, this is like, what the fuck am I saying to this mafia? Can I pay you back on a payment plan? And so my editor, told me to change the wording of what I'm about to say because it's too unbelievable, even if it was true, but I'll tell you the truth. Because I said that to Vadim, and then he just sort of drifts off for a bit. And then he said,
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
He just sort of drifts off for a bit. And then he said, "You can do that?" So in my book, I say you can do that, and he says like that you can, like, he says a version of that, but like, and I'm like awestruck by the fact that like more people don't realize what rehab is for.
And you're like, right? I just fucking found out too.
But I'm also trying to like placate the situation. So I'm like,
right.
yeah, man, you can totally do that. You can do that, man. And then he's like, another like wistful moment, and then just sort of like dreaming off. He's like, you know, I've always wanted to sell real estate in Baltimore. You can do that too. And then he takes another moment, and I guess he's inspired. And then he turns back. He's like, you know what, man? Forget about the money.
How much was it?
It's probably like 4,000 or 5,000 at that point, which it's not like 50,000, but like 4 or 5 to somebody like us at that time is like, but also to tweakers, it might as well just been $5 million. It's like the principle of the thing. So, but that amount though, he's easier to like, whatever, easier for him to say. Cause you're right. Cause if it was 500,000, he'd be like, no, you're not going anywhere. You are my slave for the next 5 years until you pay me back. But he said, you know what, man, forget it. Best of luck. And that was it. And then, I drive off to the sunset with my parents. And that's where the book ends. But actually, that's not where the book ends, because the book, I do a final chapter up to 2023 when I married my husband, and talking about the journey with my mother, who walked me down the aisle. My very Mormon mother walked me down the aisle of my very gay wedding.
At the temple.
The temple of, hey. So the book is that. The book is, I mean, there's more, there's a lot of stuff that's in there, there's just some incredible characters that I didn't even talk about. And, this is what I just gave you is essentially the overview of the book itself.
It's incredible. I thought of about 7 other podcasts I've listened to, or I guess I've had on, that were gay and went through some kind of addiction, that also had some kind of abuse in high school. And I almost asked you, but like, you're such a good storyteller. So like, I just wanted to shut up and listen. But so anyway, I found that kind of interesting that you just kind of glossed over that.
Yeah, I'm just used to getting to the story part, but the because that's the part that people mostly want to hear. But you're absolutely correct. No, and also it's sometimes the harder stuff to talk about.
I know.
That's why you're suggesting that right now.
And I've kind of had my own experience too that I sometimes gloss over.
Yeah. It's actually really funny. Is not funny. I'm just saying that because that's a figure of turn of phrase. I have therapy at 2, and no, it's okay. We can go until then. But I'm just saying that because what I'm going to talk about with him, I have told the story. The book is done. We just did final edits. But the story, it's just so, like, I'm so proud of it. the story about the older gentleman who groomed me at 13, 14, I have told that story to therapists in the past and many a times, but writing it, editing it, and now this final edit really, and my final editor being my husband, who's incredible at this. And so like we actually talking about it with him and editing it and what he knows about me, I had a new old memory from the final experience with this gentleman. And it came about because I was trying to give the deeper details to my editor husband, to the point where I'm going to be, and I'm proving your point, like there's still things to be, I've shared that story many times, but like, is my unconscious, to survive, probably had to compartmentalize a lot of things, but am I now opening up deeper, like really deep parts of myself that are allowing these old memories to really come up? Because I thought I had it like this happened and then this happened in the experience. I was very clear on that. But then I have this other thing coming up. I'm like, wait, did that happen too? Like it's blowing my mind. And so to prove your point, like, I mean, that kind of work may never end, but it was parts of the story that, there's so much shame, because I also blamed myself because I made the choice to go meet him. But I'm 13, and he offered me money and cartons of cigarettes, and I blamed myself. And it was like, so those are the harder things to talk about, because there's still, my drug story is pretty clear in my mind. Like I can wrap a bow on that and be like, I've processed this. I'm separate from that. That's still in process. I can't wrap a bow on it. So it makes me feel more vulnerable.
And I completely relate. Like my situation was child on child, and probably took me 2 years of being sober to the first time ever to say it out loud what happened. And then it took like another 2 to 4 years before I would like talk about it to a professional and like start to process it, pull it apart. And I did EMDR therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah,
that's, I am familiar with it. I've done tidbits of it a long time ago, but it's funny you say that. This is if my therapist says it today too, then I will, because this is the second time the universe in the last week has said that for that specific experience. Now that I'm having, I think, new old memories around it, I think that might be the approach I go for. Because I am really again, I thought that experience was processed. I thought it was.
Well, and the other thing that someone told me was it took you this long to get sober and to get healthy enough to even be able to process this stuff, because if you would have tried earlier, you would have relapsed, or you would have been in the psych ward or something, right?
Yeah.
It would have torn you apart.
Exactly right. Exactly. I mean, and if I'm having all this stuff come up for me in the writing of my book, 10 years ago, I could have written my book. Yeah, we do 4-step inventories. We dig into this stuff, but like writing, like actually like writing and editing and spending the amount of time, it is an inventory times 1,000. Like, and then this is my fourth step. This is my fourth step, and I've done it like 12 times this year.
I can't believe you said like. I'm getting weird connection vibes with you, right? Because like the first time I ever said what happened to me out loud was to my sponsor during my fourth step.
There it is.
Yeah. Wow. Who knew I could relate to a gay Mormon who was an informant for the police, who lives in California, has been on TV. A little old Todd with his podcast in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Hey, it kind of proves the point that underneath it all, we're made of the same stuff,
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Let me ask you one more question about the abuse thing.
Yes,
because a lot of younger guys that are groomed by older men, adults, they actually feel like they're in a relationship, and then it's like years later, like that's not a fucking relationship. That fucker was doing this.
Yeah. Well, okay. So to expand on this, I already set this up. This is when I'm thinking I'm diseased by God, and this is prior to seeing the other young man who may be like me. This is me trying really hard to be a good Mormon boy. I just came from a Mormon youth camp where my roommate was like so it like I had the biggest crush on my roommate, one of my first ones ever. And, I kind of sort of revealed some of that to him, and he just completely like, a 13, just completely just, shamed me. So I was already, and then I was and then AOL, the internet, with just 93, 94, like just hit. And so I just started.
Just hit, like it was a pandemic.
I mean, it was the Wild West. You go into these chat rooms and like, I thought I was talking to a boy in Australia. It could have been some older man in London, but I was connecting with people who felt like the way that I did. And so, I was tortured, really trying hard to be a good Mormon, but then I would succumb to, the nights when I'd go online and talk to other boys like me and download porn that would take 5 minutes to do like one picture. You remember that kind of thing, that kind of stuff.
I do.
But, I was in pain, and this older man, he was like 38, which is so funny now because, I'm 43 and, it's so funny to think of that. But, to me, he might as well have been 100.
Yeah.
He was, he was upfront about his age, and I just thought it was gross. But when I say groomed me, it was because he started asking like how I was feeling and what was going on. And I just kind of just told him the whole Mormon thing. And he was the first person to sort of be like, they have it wrong. Like, you're okay the way you are. Like, he was telling me truthful things, but like he was grooming me to get me, my young body naked.
So by validating you, basically.
Extremely validating, because it was like this adult was telling me these things I hadn't heard before and making me feel good. Ironically, I thought I owed him because of that. Like I was supposed to pay him back for that kindness. And I knew meeting him was wrong, but somehow like him paying me $300 and like 3 cartons of cigarettes and Marlboro Lights was like, even then I was like agreed to meet, but then I was like, everything about it was wrong. But I was also, and this is the fucked up part, is like, and maybe you can relate to this. I was titillated because, my hormones are kicking in. It is still, regardless of the circumstances, it's still a sexual experience. So like the touch it's messed up because the touch feels good, but it's also wrong. And so that's what you're telling yourself this whole time. And then I felt ashamed because I wasn't getting an erection. I'm 13. So like, of course I'm not getting an erection, and I felt like I let him down. And then I met him a second time, like 2 weeks later, after destroying myself for 2 weeks, blaming myself for meeting him. And the second time, I felt like I really owed him. So he got a hotel room, and then that's when a lot of shit happened. And I don't think I made it to the woods barely. I ran away from the hotel room, made it into the woods. And I don't think to this day I still cried as hard as I did. Like I was gripping the tree because I was crying so hard I thought it was going to be sucked off the planet. Like that when I started the story, this podcast, and talking about it wanting to die, that's where I was starting from. And on top of that, I thought this was what I deserved. Like I had kissed girls before. This was my first guy kiss. And like, look at that. This is the sinful shit the church is teaching me. This is what I'm supposed to have. This is what I'm supposed to. And that's what I was starting place. That's what was my starting place.
So that was your starting place. This is how our minds work. And this is just an observation. There's no judgment or anything.
No.
Like you wrote the book for the mother of that guy, but as importantly, your starting point is just as important, but yet you glossed over it so quickly.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that and bringing me here. It's hard to start a podcast from that place. I'd much rather. No.
That's fair. That's fair.
No. That part is true, and it is also true that, like, no, I don't want to talk about this part as much, And now we have rapport. I'm comfortable. Everybody's heard everything prior to, so they have a different point of view on what I'm sharing now. But starting from that place, I would have felt embarrassed. Like I would have felt like I had to explain so much more about myself. But now knowing what you know and delivering it the way I just did, it makes a lot more sense. So it's like.
So anyway, I was being raped and
exactly
for cigarettes,
and because I thought I deserved it for cigarettes. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you're right.
So and it's also trying to choose. In our limited time, like, what are the classic hits of my story that are people reacting to, that kind of stuff. And this is the guts of it. But I usually only have time to do the anatomy of it, I'm sorry, the bone, maybe the bones of it, not the anatomy, but like, I don't have time to do the full anatomy. How about that? There we go.
Right. Anatomy is all encompassing.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I said that boyfriend, undercover boyfriend, lived at my house junior year in high school. I don't know if I said that, because his home situation was so bad. His parents were killed when he was 7 in a bad drug deal. So he lived with his physically abusive grandfather, and his grandmother. And so my mother took pity and moved into our house my junior year of high school. I'm living with my lover, and which we did not have the capacity for. But my eldest, one of my older brothers, not Mormon, very masculine, he caught us. He caught us passed out on top of each other, and he beat the shit out of us. But he was screaming the whole time, "I love you, but my brother's not a faggot." Boom. I mean, and I was trying to defend him from hurting the other, my lover, and getting in his face, but I would not fight my brother back. I chose not to. I was just punching back. I was like, "I'm not fighting you. Stop hitting him, but I'm not fighting you." And bam, bam. I don't want to talk about that. That's like, that's awful to talk about. That's my brother, like, seriously gay bashed me. But at my wedding, there's a video where you can see my husband and I walking back down the aisle after our kiss. We stop halfway down, we kiss again. You can see that brother at the end of the aisle, and he is beaming brighter than anyone. He is clapping louder than anyone, and there is pure joy in his eyes. And the evolution that he has gone on with where he was and where he started, just like my mother, but a different form. My mother religious, my brother, masculine guy, placed in society. Like, he really thought he was loving me in his way. And he was pounding my face saying, "I love you. Whoa, my brother's not a faggot." Like, he thought he was going to beat the weakness out of me or something. I don't want to talk about that. So I'm going to talk about the classic hits that, but that's all in there.
It's all in the book, all that stuff?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And now on my podcast.
And now in your yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah. There's still other things, but we'll save that for the book.
Right. Well, I mean, that just goes to show just people can change. We're all young once, and we all thought this was black and white thinking. And
yeah,
I think it's beautiful that you are where you are. Your mom's where she is. Your brother is where he is. And that's what life is. I mean, you all grew.
My experience has taught me that we really have no idea where life is going. No. There was 5 years where I stopped talking to my mother in recovery because it was just too painful. But now we're reconciled in a more profound, beautiful, I love her more than I ever have kind of way.
And your dad?
He got as far as he could, and he met my husband. The wedding was he was terminal, and so we knew that. So the wedding was kind of like a last hurrah for him as well. But on the night that he passed in the hospital and leading up to it, he did. My dad was a self-described wood board. He wished he was more emotional, but the most he could say he was proud, and he is, and loved us in the way that he could. And he's in the book, but it isn't the same journey as my mom. And that's kind of on purpose, because my dad, for a lot of parts, even though he was there, he felt like he wasn't there.
Right. And I mean, going through this, I'm assuming you've also realized all these people that you're talking about have their own traumas and backstories, and that's empathy.
Also what empathy, compassion, which has allowed me to forgive my mother completely, forgive my father completely. I'm pretty sure I'm 80% forgiving of myself where I'm at with everything. I want to leave a little percentage to not feel like I know what I'm talking,
Stay humble.
Thank you.
And motivated.
Thank you. That's exactly right.
Thank you so much for this, Sean. Sean and I got along really well, and he's just a super cool dude. And he's got a fascinating story. So thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you so much for writing your book. I look forward to checking that out. Again, check the show notes to find out where you can get it. And for Sean's contacts, please stay tuned. I've got lots of incredible episodes already recorded. I'm always recording more. Always, I have fascinating guests. And I always learn something from them, and I hope you do too. Again, please make sure to rate and review. Check out my website, www.bunnyhugspodcast.com. Thank you again so much for Carey and for Sonia for everything you do for the podcast and for me and for my family. And until next week, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.